What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back with another A to Z of Ark, and today we are taking a look at none other than the MOSCHOPS. Now, as you can see, there are a lot of these big boys around us, and these guys are found on practically every map. Now, they do have a variant as well, which is found on Aberration, and that is obviously the Aberrant MOSCHOPS. But these guys are found on the Island, the Center, Scorched Earth, Ragnarok, Extinction, Valgyro, Genesis Part 1, Crystal Isles, Genesis Part 2, and Lost Island. Now, I do believe that is every single map. So you can find the MOSCHOPS on every single map. They'll generally spawn on beaches / on the inlets of like little jungle areas. So you can definitely find a lot of these guys. Now, in my opinion, these are probably one of the best creatures you can tame to start Ark off in. But at the same time, they can also be one of the biggest pains in the butts, and that is why I generally don't bother going about trying to tame one of these, because I'd rather put my energies and effort towards taming something a little bit better. Now, let's go over why. The MOSCHOPS has a unique taming method, well, a unique passive taming method, where it wants different resources. Now, you can currently see here, this one wants a rare mushroom, this one wants giant bee honey, this one wants tinto berries, which is actually perfect. This one wants rare mushrooms. So each time you feed a MOSCHOPS, or before you even feed one, they'll have a different requirement that you need to meet. Now, depending on obviously this requirement, that is what makes taming them such a pain in the butt sometimes. Depending on what map you're on and all that sort of stuff, it can be very difficult to find a perfect MOSCHOPS that wants exactly what you have. Majority of the time, giant bee honey, rare mushrooms, rare flowers, cooked prime meat. When you're first starting off, they can be a bit of a pain in the ass to get your hands on. So depending on what map you're on, obviously, because if you're on something like Aberration, you can simply attack a mushroom tree and that'll give you your rare mushrooms. Valgyro, you can possibly find the rare flowers and the rare mushrooms a little bit easier. So it all comes down to what requirement they need. But if you do find that they don't have the requirement that you need, simply run away and try and find another one. And that is essentially all you need to do in order to tame them. Like I said, they can be a pain in the butt. They will ask for these things though, so you want to make sure that you have them on you if you do need to get one. Now, the foods that it wants, there's quite a lot. So, a marberry, azul berry, cooked lamb chopped, cooked meat jerky, cooked prime fish meat, cooked prime meat, giant bee honey, leech blood, mejo berries, organic polymer, prime meat jerky, rare flowers, rare mushrooms, raw meat, raw mutton, raw prime fish meat, raw prime meat, sap, and tinto berries. So, as you can see, there is quite a lot of resources that this guy could request. Some of them definitely swaying towards endgame sort of things, such as the jerky, the sap, all that sort of stuff. So it can be a bit cumbersome and tiresome to go about taming these guys, which, like I said, is why I go ahead and try and tame another herbivore, because that's pretty much what you'll be using these guys for. These guys did have a use on official servers. On private servers, I don't think they have really as much of a use anymore. So we'll go over it once we've tamed them up. But yeah, these guys are good first herbivores if you are able to tame one up easy enough. Now, once you've successfully tamed up your MOSCHOPS, you can ride on them without having the need for a saddle. And these guys have a couple of unique abilities. So they have the ability to harvest resources around them. You can see here we're able to gather berries very effectively as well as fiber, which is why they are one of the better tames to get when you first start off. And if you can find a low level one that only wants like a tinto berry or a mejo berry or any of the berries that you have, then it's definitely well worth getting these guys, because they do gather quite a lot of berries. As well as that, they are capable of gathering fiber like you saw, and they can also gather thatch and wood. And they're decent harvesters. For when you're first starting off, they're definitely decent. As well as this, they can also harvest corpses as well. And they can also attack. Now, most chopsers are actually pretty strong. They can definitely go toe-to-toe with raptors and stuff like that. Anything smallish like dillos, or even you could probably take on a trike with a MOSCHOPS, and parasaurs and stuff like that. The one thing you do need to keep note of, however, is that you need to be riding the MOSCHOPS, because the moment that you get off and try to whistle it to attack the target, it will run away scared. So you cannot use these guys without riding on them as well. Now, another really cool factor about the MOSCHOPS is that it will autonomously gather berries and fiber. So if you want to enable it onto wandering, it will automatically gather resources in the vicinity. You can see there, it did just gather that bush, so it will gather berries and fiber in the area, which makes it really good if you're just starting out and you need some resources and you want to do some other stuff. Leave your MOSCHOPS in a safe area. It will go ahead, gather the berries, and harvest up the resources that you require. Now, another really cool aspect of the MOSCHOPS is its harvesting levels. So every time you put a point into its stats, it will gain a bonus harvesting level. Now, you can find these bonus harvesting levels right here in the MOSCHOPS' radio wheel. If you view these harvesting levels, you will get an option to level up certain resource gathering. So for example, sap, raw prime meat, raw prime fish meat, rare flowers, rare mushrooms, leech blood, and organic poly. Now, like I mentioned, back in the days before Scorched Earth and stuff like that, the MOSCHOPS were really good for gathering these resources because it was one of the only creatures that would gather a lot of organic polymer and whatnot, as well as sap. Nowadays, however, you can use your chainsaw and stuff like that, and you will gather quite a bit more than the MOSCHOPS. However, if you do put your point into prime meat or even fish meat, you will increase the quantity and harvest weight. You can see there the harvest weight is 125.4% and the quantity is 128. So we'll now gather an extra 28% raw prime meat, which is really good if you were just starting out. You'll find that the MOSCHOPS very easily gets overridden by some of the other creatures on the Ark very quickly. So I would recommend taming one of these guys pretty much straight away when you get on the Arks. Otherwise, you'll find later on they will not have too many uses for you. Now, the harvest weight increases the chances of receiving the item as well. So, for example, come back here, you silly thing. But you can see here, if we were to whistle him to attack the turtle, he will just run away. So they aren't fighters, they're lovers and gatherers, so you will need to be careful with them. Make sure you leave them on neutral. That way, if they get attacked, they will just run away from you, or whatever it is that is attacking them. But you can ride them and deal plenty of damage to whatever it is that you were attacking. Now, like I was mentioning, can you, just stop? The harvesting level weight, it corresponds to the chances of gathering that particular material. So we have an extra 25% chance to get more prime meat. So keep that in mind if you go about getting these guys, but that is pretty much all there is to the MOSCHOPS, unfortunately. They don't have a saddle requirement, nothing like that. They are just very good gatherers at the early stages of the game and autonomously. So if you want to use them for that, go ahead by all means. But other than that, they don't really have too many other uses. So guys, that is going to wrap up the video for today. Hopefully you guys found this one enjoyable. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe down below for more, and I'll catch you in the next one.